Welcome back to H-Lock Gaming and This Week in Godforge Episode 7. Per usual, I decide to schedule my video to come out at 8 a.m. on Friday, and there's a Friday brief, little tiny leak, I want to call it, on Discord. So this week, I'm going to try and put it out maybe a little bit after that. Obviously, I'll have to wake up Friday and take a look at that and try and add something, but let's take a look at that. All right, here we got Izanagi with some updated textures on the face. It is funny, this zoomed in, you can actually see his shoulders look a little bit funny there with the necklace, right? You can see like there's a little bit of a bump. But I don't think that will be an issue. It should be fine in game. You're not going to be able to see that. But yeah, the facial hair and the sort of lines and the creases in the face look pretty good. You can also see here, yeah, the neck. This texturing looks. Oh man, look at that! That vein in his chest right there. That's pretty crazy. And then it looks like they fixed that issue I was seeing, or maybe it's just a perspective issue on that other picture. Hard to tell, right? Could just be a perspective thing. And then here is I don't know if you really want to call it armor, more like clothing, right? Is updated, and let's see if we can zoom in. I don't know what that is, if that's like supposed to be a tattoo or sort of lightning running through him. You can see those. Or wait, were the leaves? Where were they at? Was this leaves and then this was some other. What was that? I can't remember. But either way, oh, look at the headpiece. That's cool. That's pretty sweet, man. I like that. And then, of course, there's like, I don't know what you want to call this. Like, is it an extension of his belt? It doesn't look like it's attached there. I wonder if that'll just float behind him in game or what. Huh. Guess we'll have to wait and see in game what that does. But let me bring up the old visuals from, I think, about 2 weeks ago, just so you can see the comparison real quick. All right, here you go. You can see how much more detailed the headpiece was in those past pictures. Even, I don't know what you want to call these, just bracers, I guess, because gauntlets would go over the hand. Yeah, so just the bracers. The facial hair is different. Can't really say if it's more or less detailed, but then also the skin, you know, that vein right there, and then that sort of lightning or tattoo or whatever that might have been on his chest. So yeah, you can just see when the textures are applied how much it changes a model. Obviously a pretty drastic change, you know. If this was in game for a ton of games, you would say this is very good on its own. So that next step is pretty incredible to see, you know, for what I think a lot of people would just consider a small mobile game. Okay, let's go to our next video. Actually, Simon released on his channel, his Hell Hades channel. Uh, he kind of re-shows some demo stuff. It's the same build from the February leaks 2 weeks ago, but he shows some stuff I want to just show real quick. Okay, so this was from Simon's channel, not the Fateless channel. Let's go ahead. Yeah, you can see here he's basically showing the same things. There was a few just in-game animations we haven't seen before. Also, he does actually show. All right, then in a second he'll show us Achilles, which we haven't seen before. He doesn't have any animations, but still kind of cool to see. So we can't see him from the side or anything, but we see, you know, Brawler, Order. But yeah, I didn't know who this was. I believe Ragewood said he thought it was Achilles, so his guess was correct again. No surprise there. All right, let's move on to the next part I wanted to show you. All right, now we got a couple minutes of in-game combat footage I wanted to show. I'm actually going to play it at 1.5 times speed, just play it through and then go back and talk about some little things I saw. All right, let's go back and take a look at a couple of things that affect turn meter. All right, I've slowed this down to half the speed that it was posted at, and we'll see she's going to attack, and she'll use a turn meter increase. That's what I'm trying to say. And you'll expect her, if she didn't use it right, she would go to the bottom of the turn. If you see my mouse in the upper left corner, but you'll see she actually goes before Anubis, so we can kind of see how those turn meter skills are going to work. See, so she ends up there instead of at the bottom. Okay, here's a quick playthrough of the final stage of bosses, and then we'll take a quick look again. Okay, let's go back and take a look at some stuff. Okay, so what's going to happen is all these guys are going to attack. I think it's Guan Yu is how you pronounce it. I'm going to slow it down actually. I'm a little confused because they're going to do steel turn meter, but you never see his position move down. And I would expect it's calculating that every time he's attacked. So see steel turn meter, he's in the same position, steel turn meter, same position again, steel turn meter, and he's killed. So I'm a little confused as to why his position never changes, because as far as we know, Guan Yu, which I think is how you say, is a rare, and this is Musashi, I think is his name. He is an epic, so you would expect even a small turn meter steal would affect a rare if there's, I don't know, he's just slower. I don't know exactly how it's working. That's a little part I'm confused about down below. I guess if you have any ideas, let me know. But I did want to show a skill that I thought was pretty cool. All right, I wanted to show Aphrodite's skill here. If you'll notice when she strikes, the magic sort of looks like flower petals, which I didn't notice before. I just thought that was a pretty cool visual effect. You also see here she lands a stun. It's in purple and it's hard to see. I might have to slow it down more. See, you can kind of see it there. I'll slow it down and we'll watch it again. See, you could barely see it. I don't know what they would do there if stun is going to be a standard purple color and that skill is sort of a pinkish color. It kind of blends in too much with it, so you can't really see it taking effect until after the fact. I don't know if they want to change that or not, but that might be a little suggestion I would have, make that stand out more somehow. Not sure how they would do that, since usually, you make certain skills a standard color when they're happening. Okay, let's move on to Tuesday's video. Okay, so Simon's making this video in response to people asking what can we expect in the beta. This is a kind of an example of the PC client from the beginning. You'll see when he hits play, it automatically goes to full screen, which he said is a feature they'll have, but I just wanted to show it because we haven't seen that before, and then I'll talk about some stuff. Yeah, see how he hits play and it shows, all that, and then it pops to full screen, which is pretty cool. And then oh yeah, this part too, a little quick snippet of the opening cinematic, and then he quickly skips it so we can't spoil it. And then I wanted to go to another part where he shows about a lighting change, which I thought was pretty cool to see. All right, here we see the lighting change, just how you can see the armor and the characters much better. I still think that looks good, but I can understand why he said they would want to change this. Like, why would you want to put all that work in and you can't see some of that stuff? Okay, I'll just let this play. Also said he wanted to have 5 maps done for beta. We'll have to wait and see if that's all difficulties or a single difficulty or what it is. He also talks about people saying, "Oh, put the demo out now. What we're seeing is good. We just want to play it." And he talks about how they know they have things they want to fix that are still in the build they're going to put out for the beta. Oh, that was another thing. He said they essentially have a demo that they're working on that they can go to like different events and show people. And then there's the actual working beta, which are two different things. Um, and as far as putting out the beta for people to play, he said, there's things they know they want to fix, which I can understand because you never know when you fix or tweak or adjust something, how it might fix something that you haven't accounted for. So they want to get it to a place they're comfortable with. So then when we're testing it, it's not something they knew they needed to fix and we're giving them feedback on. That would be kind of pointless for them to do the beta. So I can see why they want to wait and make sure they have it in a state where we can actually test it. So there might be interactions or things that could cause problems that they can fix or address that they don't already know about. There is one other thing I wanted to show real quick. Let's see if I could find it. Okay, here it is. This right here looks to be Icarus from the Olympus faction. I know we are aware that he's a character, but I don't know if we've ever seen his portrait or whatever you want to call this right here. And then the person next to it, I don't know who that is. Um, they have some type of health, looks like aura, and I don't know, that looks like kind of fur maybe. So I was thinking it could be somebody from the Asgard. Let me know down below who you guys think that might be, and if I missed it and we've seen it before. All right, let's take a look at the Thursday podcast. Okay, on this week's podcast, they have Esther, who works on the art for a lot of characters, and Mike, who they said started as a freelancer working on the cinematic, but is now full time working on the cinematic and other cutscenes and things of that nature. I'm actually going to skip to about halfway into the podcast. I'm just going to let it play because they don't actually show anything, or I think possibly the biggest leak of the podcast was this week. About 32 and a half minutes in, Simon talks about some of the boss designs coming in and one he liked. He kind of has trouble pronouncing it, or kind of he's not sure how to say it. And then Esther also doesn't try to say it. And I think they're saying Apu. They don't write it out. I don't see it. APU. So if I'm interpreting that correctly, that's going to be a boss. And when I Googled it, it said that was the rain giver in Inca culture. You know, they would pray to him when they had a drought. They said, too, in the sort of mythology, if it was drastic enough, that they would sacrifice humans to bring about rain. So I was thinking, that's kind of a interesting mechanic there. Rain giver, possibly, have some water skills. What would that do? Kind of a flood. If you think you're caught up in a flood, you're just kind of being carried along. Would you immobilize? So maybe some type of immobilization skill, and potentially the boss gets stronger the more of your companions that die, sort of that human sacrifice type deal. So I thought that was kind of the biggest leak overall. Besides that, a lot of the stuff they just kind of talk about were what these two do. Like I said, or Mike's working on the cinematic and other video cutscenes, and Esther is really designing the characters from a art style perspective. In fact, Simon said, when they hired her, that's really when they got their art style, which I didn't really know. So that's kind of interesting there. And then the cinematic will be revealed at GDC, which is the week of March 17th. So I don't know when it's going to be revealed. So potentially somewhere around a month, we'll get to see the cinematic. In fact, Simon said they're actually going to have a, I don't know, party or launch event for the cinematic. They actually have a space rented out and have an idea for it all to be set up somewhere in this bar. The cinematic will be projected somewhere in the bar. They have a idea of how they're going to set up a screen and things of that nature. He didn't really say what else they might have there, but it'll be during GDC, but not at it, he said. They also talked about how story is very important and how they need to deliver that story without sort of making it feel forced into the game, to really get you intrigued and drawn in and not just skipping it all the time, finding it annoying. Because we've all played those games where story is clearly an afterthought, and it's not like you can't get enjoyment out of those games, but I can't think of a game that I played long term like that. I just gave up. Part of that is because either you're not invested because of the story or because the studio isn't invested in the story. They know they put in X dollars and they get X dollars back, and eventually, they essentially just abandon the game and you're not really getting updates. So it's good to hear they have an opposite philosophy of that. One thing they said that was pretty interesting too was it really feels like the tone of the game is starting to come together. Um, they said that really allowed them to kind of fine tune the cinematic and put on these final touches, which is where Simon said they're at. One thing that's interesting, I was kind of thinking about too, because they said Mike was hired as a freelancer from the beginning to work on the cinematic. So if you think of that in terms of a story perspective, that means they've had at least the major beats of the story, if not even some of the finer details, more flushed out from the beginning. If you want to compare it to when you were in school writing a book report, you can't write the intro of the book report if you have no idea what you're going to talk about in the report. And sometimes you do write the intro and then you write the book report and you go back and look at it. Well, you say this isn't really a good intro for what I was covering. So if they were working on the cinematic from the beginning, which is what it sounds like, that means the story has been pretty well flushed out for a long time. So that's also, kind of a little interesting tidbit there that I don't think we knew. We knew they had a concept, but I don't know if we really had the feeling that they had this story really that far or that completed since the beginning. One thing they also talked. Oh, and another thing they talked about with the cinematic that really brought it together was the music from Serena. I don't remember if they've had her on here or Simon just did one of his like little Tuesday videos about it. But I checked out some of her music, and the way I could describe the stuff I heard was sort of a ethereal, eerie feeling. And I believe the word Mike used was haunting for the song she created for the cinematic. So I don't want to hype it up too much because I haven't seen anything other than a little snippet that Simon actually showed in the Tuesday video where it's, someone taking a couple of footsteps. But it feels like it could almost be triple A quality with the way they're talking about it and what they've put into it. But we will have to wait and see. Final thing they talked about that was more specific and instead of in terms of overall development, because I was kind of in and out of this whole podcast. They would cut into the kind of overall character design and art design. But specifically, they asked Esther how you kind of differentiate different characters because the community will say, I forget the character they use, but we've seen it, but they put it out. And, Simon said they were getting lots of feedback. Like, this looks like a legendary, man, not a rare. So they brought that up and said, how do you differentiate between the two? And she said, she'll have more of a color palette, so more options for epic and legendaries as opposed to, common, uncommon, and rares. And then for legendaries, they generally have more VFX. But Simon said there's definitely, times they're crossing over into a ton of VFX for even rare characters. And Brad agreed and he said, it practically looks like from a character design standpoint, we're just coming out with like 112 legendaries, which was kind of funny. Uh, they didn't do their normal what character would you like to see in the game. Maybe that's because they're all working in the game and have already put in their suggestions. Normally I would ask, like and subscribe, or you can still do that, but I'm actually going to try and wait and see if there's another Friday leak, because since I've been doing these, most of the time there has been, and so when I'm giving you that information, it's almost a week late. So hopefully I can get that and still get this out on Friday. If there's something after this, it means I got it done, and if not, this is the end of the video. So I wait for the Friday leak to put up my video, and it turns out to be something that was covered earlier in the week, the lighting change they did, which was obviously a good change, but of course it was pointless for me to wait this week the first time I do it, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
I'll let it keep playing. There you go. You see it. You already saw it earlier. And that's about it for the Friday leak. All right, so that's it for this week's video. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing. Also, I always forget to mention this. The link is down below, but if you use HLOC10, you can get 10% off your Fateless / Godforge gear that they have out right now on their merch store. I don't get anything for it. It's no kickback or whatever, but you get 10% off. So enjoy that if you want to get something. They got some good hoodies, I stand with Avalon or Asgard or whatever. I'm not sure which one I'll get or if I'll just get a generic Godforge hoodie, but I guess that's it, and I will see you next week. Bye.